Meeting with Mansfield Town on Saturday did not provide many standout positives for Mikel Arteta. Although the Gunners managed to secure progression to the next round, several squad players struggled to impress or strengthen their case for more regular starts. However, the club's academy once again delivered a bright spot. Arsenal's Hale End system produced another wave of exciting talent, as 16-year-olds Max Dowman and Marley Salmon were both included in the starting lineup, while 18-year-old fullback Jaden Dixon also featured from the bench later in the match. Dowman, in particular, caught the eye. At only 16, the attacking midfielder already looks like a player with enormous potential. Quick on his feet and technically gifted, he showed the ability to glide past defenders and maintain close control under pressure. His style and left-footed balance have even drawn loose comparisons to a young Lionel Messi, though such praise understandably comes with caution. Even though he didn't register a goal or assist, Dowman arguably looked like the most influential player on the pitch. Salmon, meanwhile, endured a tougher afternoon. The highly rated defender made his first start for Arsenal and generally performed well, but a misplaced back pass contributed to the move that led to Mansfield's equalizer. Considering his age and the fact he was playing out of position at right back, the mistake was understandable. Dixon later replaced him and also made a promising impression. Physically strong and composed on the ball, the winter signing from Stoke City linked up effectively with Noni Madueke down the right side during the closing stages. Despite goals from Madueke and Eberechi Eze, most of the attention after the match centered on Dowman's impressive display. Dowman'S emergence could affect Arsenal's midfield hierarchy. Dowman's development could have significant implications for Arsenal's midfield structure. When the club signed Eberechi Eze last summer, the move surprised many observers, partly because competition in attacking midfield was already intense. Ethan Nwaneri had just broken into the first team during the 2024-25 season, while Kai Havertz and captain Martin Ødegaard were already competing for the same role. Dowman was also part of the picture, although he has often been used on the right flank. Against Mansfield, however, he played in a central role, the position he appears most comfortable in. During his 77 minutes on the field, he completed 4 of 7 dribbles, created 2 key chances, took 5 shots, and won 3 fouls. It was an authoritative performance from someone still in the early stages of his career. While the opposition came from League One, the confidence and influence he showed were striking, particularly compared with some senior players who have struggled in that role this season. Questions around Ødegaard's future. One of those players is Martin Ødegaard. Earlier in his career, the Norwegian midfielder was described by Arsene Wenger as being like a young Cesc Fabregas. However, his form has dipped over the past couple of seasons. After a brilliant 15-goal campaign in 2022-23, his impact has gradually declined. Injuries, particularly ankle problems, limited his appearances last season, and he finished the 2024-25 campaign with 6 goals and 12 assists, only 3 of those coming in the Premier League. This season has also been disrupted by recurring fitness issues. The 27-year-old has featured in just 27 matches across all competitions and has scored only once. As a result, some supporters are beginning to question whether the club should consider selling him while he is still in his prime. Arteta may be hesitant to part with his captain, but the presence of players such as Eze, Dowman, and Nwaneri creates significant competition for places. Nwaneri, currently on loan at Marseille, is also expected to challenge for minutes when he returns. With so much young talent emerging from Hale End, Arsenal may eventually need to make difficult decisions about which players to prioritize. Selling an established player like Ødegaard might seem drastic, but when a generational academy talent begins to rise, it can force a club to rethink its long-term plans. Sometimes I write my thoughts first and only later try to come up with a title. But days like this are different. The title appears before anything else because it perfectly captures the message shaped by what unfolded for Arsenal in Yorkshire last night. To begin with, Mansfield deserve credit. They handled the occasion well and gave everything against a clearly stronger side. They managed 18 attempts and 5 shots on target, and their moment of joy arrived in the 50th minute through Evans's equalizer. The goal came after a mistake from 16-year-old Marley Salmon, who otherwise had a solid game. Mosquera might also have done better by anticipating the pass rather than being caught flat-footed, but the finish itself was neat. For around 16 minutes. After that, it made for uncomfortable viewing as Mansfield held Arsenal off while still creating a couple of opportunities. As a team, Arsenal were far from impressive, but there were factors worth considering. The pitch was in terrible condition, more mud than grass in most areas, with only the corners looking playable. Some will say both teams had to deal with it, but that argument doesn't quite convince me. Mansfield are used to playing on that surface regularly, whereas Arsenal rarely encounter a pitch like that. The fact that 2 players had to go off injured probably says enough about its state. Thankfully, it sounds like the issues for Leandro Trossard and Riccardo Calafiori are minor, with Mikel Arteta later describing them simply as little niggles. That's particularly good news regarding Trossard, because based on Gabriel Martinelli's display, it's hard to imagine him starting in Wednesday night's match in Leverkusen. While there were some encouraging performances elsewhere, Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus were extremely poor. Yes, the pitch played a role, but both players still should have done much more with the ball. They were wasteful and at times almost invisible. Jesus, in particular, delivered a truly disappointing performance. People often complain about Victor Gyökeres not being involved enough, but when the alternative is a display like that from a former Brazilian international, serious questions about the attacking line have to be asked. Overall, the attack never really found its rhythm. Noni Madueke scored a very good goal, but he also misplaced several passes and occasionally seemed to drift through the game. His control looked shaky at times, which might again have been influenced by the pitch, but you still expect more from a player of his quality. That expectation grows even stronger when you see a 16-year-old midfielder looking like the most composed player on the field. Dowman, in particular, stood out. It's a shame he didn't convert that early opportunity that came from the Mansfield goalkeeper's poor clearance. Had that gone in, the match might have turned into a rout. Football often has those sliding doors moments where everything shifts, and after that missed chance, Mansfield started creating opportunities of their own. Arsenal's setup with 3 at the back left too much space for direct balls over the top, and on a couple of occasions, the defense was caught out by long passes during transitions. Interestingly, the injury to Trossard, which Arteta suggested, was only precautionary, may have helped tactically. It forced a switch to a back 4, and the team immediately looked more comfortable. Just 3 minutes after the change, Madueke put Arsenal ahead with a clever finish. He remains a frustrating player. Half the time he's blasting balls into the stands, and the other half he's beating defenders and looking unstoppable. Still, he was clearly the brightest of the front 3 and deserved his goal. At that stage, it felt like Arsenal might start piling on the goals. However, Mansfield refused to back down. Their goal shortly after the restart was well taken. Salmon's pass won't please him. Mosquera hesitated again, and Kepa might feel he could have done better. But Evans struck the ball cleanly, and for the next 16 minutes, the home supporters had plenty to celebrate. Eventually, Arteta turned to the bench, making changes in the 62nd minute, and within 4 minutes, they paid off. It was encouraging to see Kai Havertz get 60 minutes of game time, suggesting he may soon start an important match up front. His replacement, Eze, showed exactly why people say this is the stage of the season when he begins to shine. His goal was a powerful strike from the sort of position where you want him operating. Looking at his numbers this season, he's actually doing fairly well. 8 goals and 6 assists so far. If he reaches more than 20 combined goal contributions by the end of the campaign, that would represent a solid return. Yes, many of those contributions have come against weaker opponents, but they all count, and he clearly knows how to find the net. With Martin Ødegaard expected to be out for another week or two, Arsenal will need more moments like that from him. In the end, Arsenal progressed to the next round. It's another victory, and it brought the team's tally to 100 and 101 goals for the season. The performance itself won't live long in the memory, but that doesn't matter too much right now. What matters is getting results, and Arsenal managed to do exactly that. Next up, Leverkusen in midweek.